Glasgow, Scotland's biggest city. Once a capital of industry and one of the world's major trading seaports, its docks and shipyards provided a source of work and wealth. Today, much of that industry has moved on, and the city's docks lie mostly empty. For decades, parts of the city have struggled with unemployment. It's a problem that's been accepted by both the governments in London and Edinburgh, who say they're doing all they can to improve the situation. But recent research published by a think tank called the Scotland Institute indicates that things are actually getting worse for young people in Scotland rather than better.
What seems to be happening, as you said, is if you take the classic middle class entry into work, that's becoming precarious. If you're taking the classic not educational route into work, that's becoming far more fractured.
Dr. Roger Cook says his research shows that while youth unemployment in Scotland is near what it was 2 decades ago, with only a small rise, the nature of employment has changed drastically. From working in stable, decent paid jobs in the 90s with expectations of progressing upwards, young people today are increasingly finding themselves trapped in part-time, insecure, poorly paid work with few opportunities for training.
You can now go out of university with a degree and you'll still get a job. And statistically it doesn't look like you're any more likely to become unemployed. But you're entering a job that's 0 hours, part-time, fixed term, do the job and go away, no pension, no rights, no security. So that the employee bears all the costs and the employer gains the benefits. And once you have an attitude that that's a fair thing to do to human beings, if somebody has got learning disabilities or physical disabilities, they just don't register. Because why should you? You're interested in the cheapest way to get labour. You're not interested in people. The rates for ethnicity and disability are much the same. They've all gone up. Which all indicates that those who have always been on the margins are now even more marginalised. In Glasgow in particular, and I think Edinburgh as well, the thing that stands out is the geographical feature. You could almost list the postcodes. And you could, quickly, if you gave the Glasgow postcode, you could say, yeah, that's high or low.
Katrina is a high school graduate. For the last few years, she's been working in a cafe, but has now set her sights on something better. She's finding that competition for even entry-level, low-income jobs is fierce.
I've been saying on and off for the last month, about maybe a dozen applications at a time. Just mostly through websites. For each job there'll be at least 100 applicants, and it can be really kind of disheartening when you see that, just written out clear like that. All the jobs I've been looking at for are entry-level jobs in an office kind of administration environment. Most of them have said you need previous experience in an office environment. From where I've been working, I've got a lot of transferable skills, but having never worked in an office environment before, I can't, with all honesty, say I have that experience. But I don't see how I can get the experience before getting the job there in the first place.
And with so many young people desperate for jobs knocking on their doors, employers can offer lower wages for more work.
I wouldn't really know where to start to go about negotiating a salary, and where I am just now, I'd appreciate more the experience. The actual work experience to me is more valuable than what kind of wages I'm going to get. As long as I can get minimum wage, then I'd be happy with that.
Sarah has the benefit of a higher education, but it hasn't helped much in getting on the career ladder. She's been serving in a restaurant since graduating.
I think if I had found a job in my field, that would have been great. That would have been perfect. I would have taken that. I would have loved it. It really would have given me something to be quite happy about, because it was quite hard coming at university and just doing a minimum wage job. Kind of made me feel quite useless. It was quite a hard time actually.
And that's an experience shared by many of her peers.
Well, some of them went into teaching, some of them still haven't managed to find permanent teaching jobs. A lot of my friends now are actually just working in bars, call centres, just stuff like that, because they can't find anything suited for what they went to university for. There's nothing for them.
Sana spent 7 years studying law. Had she done so 20 years ago, she would have been well placed at the start of a lucrative career. But she too claims that today in several fields, even at professional level, jobs are sparse and nepotism has entered into the equation. She's been working in retail in the meantime.
It's really difficult to even get a legal secretary job. That would be the easy route into it, getting a legal secretary job, then you're building up your contacts, building up experience, and then applying for trainee solicitor, but it's not been easy at all. I spoke to someone as well asking for background, and they told me that for one application, for one vacancy, they're getting on average 800 applications. I know of other people who have been in the same situation. Their diploma's lapsed and they've got like a retail job or a banking job now. There's a lot of people who have found traineeships, trainee solicitors who have contacts within the law profession, and they found it much easier. If your dad's a sheriff or your mum has a law, is like a legal secretary, it helps you so much more to get into the profession.
Dr. Cook says a combination of 20 years of labour market deregulation and a weakening of trade unions has led to the current situation. The adoption of zero-hour contracts has also helped to drive a fall in the average number of hours worked by young Scots, from 35 hours per week in 1992 to 29 hours today.
Now, the legal norms in the UK has seen a steady erosion of employment rights. It used to be a case of if you worked for somebody for 6 months, you had the right to go to a tribunal if you were dismissed. That's gone. It's now 2 years. Hire and fire has become very easy. I think the other strand is the loss of workplace industrial power. For various reasons, trade unions are much less important. Outside the public sector now, unionisation rates are very low. You've got people on very fragile contracts. To actually go and form a trade union would take a lot of work and a lot of courage. We're back to the 1930s in that sense.
And the consequences are likely to be devastating, not just for young generations entering the labour market, but for society as a whole.
Loosely, if you like, there's a contract between you and your employer. And part of that contract is they pay you a wage, you work hard, they offer you training, you improve your skills. Well, this system hasn't got a contract. It's a one-sided deal. You turn up, you get paid a minimum wage, you go away. So commitment to improving yourself, zero on both sides. And Scotland's going to suffer for that because we're going to end up with more and more people slipping away from where we all believe the Scottish economy needs to go, which is high-tech, modern. My fear is you're going to see two totally different social systems opening up. One group trapped and their children following them into that trap, and another group privileged, and because of the importance of house wealth as a generational transfer asset in the UK, increasingly privileged. And those two ain't going to meet. And when you've got social systems going that way, you get crime, you get complete alienation, and you get complete misunderstanding, because neither can look at the other and think, that could be me. And once you lose that common glue, society's fragmented.
Figures published earlier this month show that 1 in 5 UK workers is now being paid less than the living wage. Dr. Cook says both the Scottish and UK governments need to do more to turn things around.
The Scottish Government is a big procurer of private sector work. So don't procure from firms that don't pay the minimum wage. Don't procure from firms that don't pay the living wage. Don't procure from firms that use 0 hours. Don't procure from firms unless they've got well-developed employment equity of access regulations. If you actually improved wages in this area, those people wouldn't go off and spend it somewhere else. They would actually spend it locally. So you start to create a virtuous circle out of a whole lot of vicious circles. And that leads on to the way in which poverty and geography entwine. I think our big issue is the very neoliberal assumption, which is crudely poverty is your own fault.
As for the 3 job seekers, Sarah has decided to emigrate to another country to try and improve her job prospects and is now pursuing a career in conservation. Sana says she'll keep trying to get work in a legal firm, but may have to start considering her options. and Katrina is still looking for work.
I'm not concerned about it at the moment, but I'm still like in my early 20s and I feel like I can still kind of stay relaxed about it, but I do worry about myself and my friends who like, where are we going to be 5 or 6 years down the line, or even 10 years? I couldn't even begin to start thinking about getting a house or getting on the property ladder, or even like taking holidays away somewhere. I just can't plan for the future like that. But I'm not too worried at the moment, but we'll see.
Hassan Ghani for The Real News, Glasgow, Scotland.